So I just saw the Lilo and Stitch remake, and honestly it was pretty much everything I was expecting. I'm going to be going into spoilers for both the remake and the original, so keep that in mind before watching this video. But if you've already seen the film or you don't care about spoilers, here's my review of it. In my opinion, it just doesn't hold up to the original, which probably isn't surprising. So the basic overall structure of the film is relatively the same, but they do have some major deviations to the plot that in my opinion did not land very well. And I also felt like the film had aspects included in it just because they happened in the original. It felt more like they were referencing the original film rather than actually having those moments contribute to the overall plot. I think this film falls into the same trappings that other live-action remakes face too, and it just missed the point overall of the original film. So Lilo and Stitch is about a little girl named Lilo, who recently lost her parents in a car accident, leaving her to be raised by her older sister Nani, and they're both struggling quite a bit with the loss of their parents, Lilo being a young child and Nani being too young to really take on this responsibility herself. But despite having to give up her dreams, she's still determined to keep what's left of her family together. Lilo has trouble fitting in with kids her age. She also struggles with loneliness and acts out quite a bit, often getting into trouble and having difficulty making friends. Nani overhears Lilo wishing for a true friend, one who will never leave or abandon her, so she decides to do something nice for Lilo and get her a dog. However, the dog that Lilo finds at the shelter is actually an alien experiment, a very dangerous one at that. Created by a mad scientist named Jumba Jukiba, Experiment 626 was originally created to destroy cities, but he and his creator were arrested by the Galactic Federation. Stitch manages to escape and he ends up on Earth, where he's confused to be a dog and is adopted by Lilo, which leads to them being targeted by the Galactic Federation, first by Jumba and Agent Pleakley, who are tasked with retrieving Stitch from Hawaii, but then later they're fired and replaced with Captain Gantu. However, while Pleakley was reining in Jumba, forcing him not to cause harm to the locals, Captain Gantu is pretty single-minded in his quest to retrieve Stitch, regardless of the harm he might cause to innocent people in the process, causing him to kidnap Lilo while trying to take in Stitch. In the end, Stitch and Lilo are able to bond and form a true friendship, and are able to convince the Galactic Federation to banish Stitch to Earth where he can live the rest of his days with his new family. And the overall theme of the movie is the Hawaiian concept of Ohana, something they reiterate throughout the film, that Ohana means family, and family means no one gets left behind or forgotten, and it's something that Lilo and Nani cling to, especially after their family became broken after the loss of their parents, and the two of them desperately want to stay together, but Nani, still being so young herself, is having trouble holding down a job, and making sure Lilo's needs are met, causing their families to be brought to the attention of social services. An aspect of the original film is that Nani does not have a proper adult figure to lean on, and has to find a way to support herself and her little sister. However, in this movie, they give her a neighbor who is often involved in their lives, which I feel like misses the point of Nani's character and her development. It's kind of like how in the live-action remake of Aladdin, they gave Jasmine a best friend, and a handmaiden named Dahlia, which ends up undermining Jasmine's character, since in the original there was such an emphasis on her being lonely, and that's the reason why she left the palace to begin with. And they pretty much do the same thing here by giving Nani an adult figure. It makes the point of her situation less impactful, and Nani also kind of feels checked out in this one. Like, she's not the one who takes Lilo to get a dog, it's the neighbor, and they don't even tell Nani they're doing this, they just spring it on her, and now she's stuck dealing with Stitch. Which is also the neighbor overstepping her bounds in my opinion. Getting their neighbor kid a dog without telling her legal guardian about it, and now all of a sudden they have this extra responsibility on them. I can't blame Nani for being so upset. Meanwhile, Lilo and Nani don't feel like they have the same relationship. In the original, Nani says that she's the only one who understands Lilo, and you can really feel that throughout the film. Like when Nani gets fired from her job as a waitress, it was technically Lilo and Stitch's fault, but when Lilo expresses this, she says it's okay because her manager was actually an evil monster who wanted to convert her.
Did you lose your job because of Stitch and me?
Nah, the manager's a vampire, and he wanted me to join his Legion of the Undead.
I knew it.
Scenes like this show how in tune the two of them are. Nani tries to discipline Lilo when she misbehaves, but she never tries to change her, or stifle her creativity. But in this one, Nani's a lot less attentive to Lilo. Like for example, there's a scene in the original where Lilo wakes Nani up, to show her that Stitch has this ability where if he puts his finger on a record player, the music plays through his mouth, which she reacts to with confusion and a bit of disgust. And they include this ability of Stitch's in this movie, but the way they played it off was kind of weird in my opinion. So first of all, they focus on Nani's ambitions. In this version, she wants to go to college to be a marine biologist, which is something that she's working on when Lilo brings this up. And Nani's focusing on that instead of Stitch. So the weirdness of the situation just goes over her head. She wasn't paying attention at all, which comes off as she just doesn't care in general. And that's just not the character. It kind of felt like they just didn't get the original movie. They also made major changes to the plot, whether it was adding characters, removing characters, or changing people's characterization. In the original, Cobra Bubbles was a social worker and former CIA. However, in this version, they still have Cobra Bubbles, but he's still a CIA agent. Meanwhile, they have a new social worker, Mrs. Kakoa, who is actually played by the original voice actress for Nani, Tia Carrera, and I feel like it just wasn't necessary to split up these two characters, and Cobra fitting both of those roles was fine in the original. I can't help but feel like they only include this character because she's played by an original voice actor, and it is cool that they included her, but I can't help but wonder what this actually contributes to the overall story. Meanwhile, Cobra is basically single-mindedly focused on the mission, with no concern for the people around him. Nani and the others have to convince him to help them find Lilo, which again just wasn't the character. They also removed characters like Captain Gantu, which was admittedly pretty frustrating. I've already made a video on that. And they end up replacing him with Jumba. But my problem with it is that growing up on Lilo and Stitch, including watching the animated series, Jumba always felt like part of the family. He basically has a redemption arc, so watching him get arrested kind of felt like they were leaving him behind. He'll likely come back in the sequel as the main antagonist, so maybe he'll have his redemption arc then. Still, I couldn't help but be disappointed. Meanwhile, Pleakley stays behind on Earth to monitor Stitch, with Cobra Bubbles insisting that he'll keep the whole thing a secret from the government, which I personally thought wasn't as good as the original, where the government was fully aware of alien activity and has dealt with them before. Like Bubbles was able to convince the Galactic Federation that mosquitoes were an endangered species, since apparently they wanted to blow up the Earth before, which was a fun reveal since Pleakley had been talking about how important mosquitoes were throughout the film. Here they just mention it. Again, it sounded more like they were referencing the original rather than it being an integral part of the plot. I also took issue with the climax of the film, because it had weird tonal whiplash. Stitch almost drowns, but Nani manages to rescue him, but they do a fake-out death, and it's all very serious and somber. But then Lilo has the idea to use jumper cables as a defibrillator, but it's played as comedic. Then he does get revived, and it's all very celebratory, only for them to make it comedic again when they basically have a cat coughing up a hairball joke, except with an important family memento. The whole thing just took me out of it. So the movie wraps up with the neighbor lady ultimately adopting Lilo. That way Nani can just focus on herself and finally go to college. And they try to incorporate it back into the theme of Ohana, saying that Nani shouldn't leave herself behind. But again, the whole point of the story was the sisters trying to stay together, especially after the loss of their parents. Plus, couldn't Nani just take online courses? Or maybe go to a local college? I'm sure they have a marine biology program in Hawaii. I'm just saying, a lot of people put themselves through school while raising a kid. Everything about this film just felt like a pale imitation of the original, and just an excuse to sell more Stitch merch. All the changes they added didn't feel like they added anything to the narrative. Meanwhile, all the things they removed felt like they really dragged the movie down. Even the emotional moments just didn't hit as hard as the original. Like, a major aspect of Stitch's character development in the original was the storybook of the Ugly Duckling, something they used to tie into the themes of the movie. And there's a very emotional moment where Stitch tries to recreate what happened in the book. They kind of have a similar moment in this movie, where Stitch goes back to the dog shelter Lilo originally found him at, but it really lacked the impact the original moment had. In the end, this movie just doesn't feel necessary, but I guess it doesn't matter because Disney got their money and that's all they really care about. And they're going to keep milking Stitch regardless, so it is what it is, but at least we'll always have the original. So that's my 2 cents on the Lilo and Stitch remake. What did you guys think of it? Are you guys going to be sticking with the original, or did you think this one had some charm? Let me know in the comments below, I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching everyone, I really appreciate it. Before I go, I want to give a shout out to our members. Tyrant Carnivore, Shiny Orc Boy, Depth Charge Media, Samaru163, Gabby Hime, Verdant Range, JVR, Equestron, Norman Sweetcream, Way Beyond Coincidence, Hunter Rose, 80s Nostalgia Guy, Felix Bam, Lucas Geist, J Draws, Meowsers, Sky, Philip, Isaac Martinez, Garcia XV Legend, Tobias Weller, Bandito Bane, Mac B909, Dakari the Professor, Todd McCaffrey, Omni Fair, Cavalcoj, Strider Exile, Phil C, Killer Bomb, Slawa Saporiguez, Entwined Boot 301, Griffin of Might, Frankie Camarillo, Datadyne Executive, Crimson Phantom, Jin the Goblin, Papa Hud 69, The Gengar King, and Daunter. Thank you for the support, and if you want to become a member, you can hit the join button next to the subscribe button. We also have Buy Me Coffee if you want to support us that way. And if you enjoyed the video, leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and that part's free. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye for now.